So we're sitting here today with Tiffani Dhooge, CEO and president of Children's Harbor, a nonprofit organization that is in the child welfare space, but she's also one of our Daily Drip thought leaders. You've been with us now 2 years?
More? I think so, yes, about 2.5.
About 2.5 years. You're also somebody I very much admire, and for a lot of reasons, probably not the reasons most people admire you. I admire you for a lot of things, and that's what I kind of outlined in the episode today I want to talk about, because I think more people should get to see this side of you that we've gotten a front row seat to. And so let's talk about this journey of you coming out of your shell and building this personal brand alongside this very public community leadership brand that you've had for a long time. So let's talk about that journey and start there. When you look back on your career and this public figure that you've become, this community leader, and you think through all the many positions you've had, the organizations you've been at, what role do you think really defined your brand before you stepped into thought leadership?
Wow, let's start with that was a heavy lob right there. What role do I think defined my brand? I think that when I look back on the last 2 and a little decades, I feel like my tenure has been defined. I feel like my whole career has been me standing between a human being and a system that I believe in and trying to determine which one I'm going to protect when the two collide. Like it's been a series of these types of situations, but I mean, as far as which role defined me, it's not going to be any of the promotions, none of the titles or the things that people think, that you've achieved. I would say that the role that defined me as a professional was the first one, because when you reach that point and you're sitting across from a child that you are now responsible for, you're their person, you come face to face with the idea that your job description really means nothing. It's not bullet points like it is in a for-profit field. Like, you have to show up for that kid in the way that kid needs you to show up, whether it's on your job description or not. And you don't have the luxury of looking at your boss and saying, I know my value. I need work-life balance. Like, if you keep, I know what I'm worth, these things that you hear all the time from young professionals. If you do that nobody shows up for that kid. And so that reality really pushed me, motivated me. That's why I wanted to keep climbing. I wanted to keep checking the box, keep climbing higher, 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 because I really believed that if the higher I climbed, that I could change the system for that kid, that I could make a difference that would change their reality. And so that role, that first role, is what really became my driving motivation for everything that I wanted to be in this field.
I remember when I heard you speak and you received the award, and I apologize because I don't remember the name of the organization, but it was a really, really big deal. And it was really awesome to hear you because you talked about the journey, the trajectory, and climbing, and how really once you got to the top, really all you could think about was, I wanted to get back into the trenches.
Oh, yes.
You imagined the impact that you could have as CEO as being far greater than where you had started or during the trajectory. And it was really, the impact was more significant and meaningful, I guess, to you as well as the kids in the trenches. Oh, yeah. You use those words.
Changing the system is not, I believe, and I know that you could interview other people who are in my field, but I have given up hope that systemic change is even possible. Like, we're still having, I think I'm on year 28 in this field. We are having the same conversations that we had when I was a baby girl, when I first entered the field. The same conversations, the same problems. And so the higher you climb, the more you realize how this is not going to happen. You are not going to change the system. All you can control is this one child's experience in the system. That's where meaningful change happens. That's where you make a real impact, one-on-one, one kid at a time, and that's okay. And so then you have to make this conscious decision to reel yourself back and stop trying to take over the world. The CEO position was not ever part of my end game. There was never a time where I looked at my husband and said, I want to be a CEO. I mean, like, I watched his journey and he hated every minute Every minute of it he hated. It was, the decision for me was, it was a survival decision. Like I was at this organization. We were just trying, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're trying to deal with federal legislation. And quite honestly, it was an opportunity. And this is not something I would ever say publicly, but I guess here we are going to say it
in front of our millions of viewers and listeners.
I was tired of working for cowards. And I usually frame it as white middle-aged men who are too afraid to make the decisions that they need to make because of liability or because of
image,
the risk, I understand that pressure. I believe that in this field, especially, you have to take that risk. You have to. And there was just so many times where you're just pleading with a leader in front of you going, we have to do this. We have to do this. And they don't have the courage to take that chance. And so the idea of being able to sit in the chair and resource my team, give them the freedom and the autonomy that they needed to do the right thing for what was in front of them was very attractive to me. And that was the main motivation for me is, oh my gosh, we can finally create a place and a space that does something for these kids that really matters instead of just checking the box.
I've often heard you talk about how because of your role for the organization that you have to be mindful of how you show up because you're representing an organization, right? So how you speak, what you say, all of these things. So I'm kind of like going to steer us into this sort of, now that you come into the Daily Drip and you're deciding that, it's time for you to start showing up publicly through content in a way you haven't yet. How do you navigate that while you're still representing an organization?
Yeah, like I would be curious to know what your specific challenges were after you made the decision to come into this. Because they're very different.
Yeah.
Working with you, and I think that goes back to my opening of introducing you, why you're somebody I very deeply respect and admire, because I've had a front row seat to watching you have to navigate things that a lot of the other members just didn't.
Oh.
And I am really like blown away by how you handled it. I think courage is the word.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, I think that we have a lot of nonprofit leaders that are in our audience and in our community that are trying to figure out how to step into this very much more public stage. And then we have a lot of corporate leaders that are trying to figure out how to step into this very public stage. And this is the question at hand that determines whether they do it or don't. So how did you think about it? And what were some of the challenges you had?
That's really what drew me here, to be honest with you, because, we are stepping into our next season. But in this specific role, and I mean, as you take on different roles, you have different expectations. When you're always curated. I hate to say that, but I also noticed that with some of our financial
Yes.
Our financial, I don't want to say counterpart. Is counterpart the right word? Whatever. You know what I'm saying. They have to put their content through compliance.
Yes. I feel like I'm on
That's why I left the industry.
Ugh, that's terrible.
I was getting flags and emails and messages. You can't say this. You can't like that. I'm like, I'm out. Yeah. I can't be tamed.
I feel like at this point I'm a compliance tap dancer.
I can't be tamed. I can't be censored.
I have opinions.
I have things to say. I have opinions. That's the mug.
So this role, this specific role, really kind of, whether you like it or not, you are being trained to edit yourself before you finish a sentence.
You mean the CEO role?
The CEO role.
Once you enter that C-suite.
Yes, I see you trying to make me say that out loud. Yes, after you are owned and you sign on the bottom line, you are the embodiment, the living embodiment, and the ambassador of the mission. Everything you say has a consequence. And so the challenge for me personally is there is a consequence beyond my opinion. It's a very real consequence that impacts the livelihood of the people who depend upon me. I have 83 people, which is not a huge organization, but I have 83 people who depend upon me to pay their light bills. I do not have the luxury of blasting off unchecked and unfiltered, and then that impacting a funding source or that impacting a contract, because I am aligned and I don't want to use the word, is it symbiotic? Is it, I am the agency is me. I am the brand. I am the ambassador. There is no separation of that. If I take a political position, a religious position, so you're curated, your entire existence is curated. And I would say for the better part of 20 years, we have been, and when I say we, my husband and I have been edited and owned. And you don't even realize that it's happening, but all of a sudden you don't own your own voice. You're not actually saying anything that you mean. And so we're stepping into this next season, and I don't even recognize my own voice.
What next season? You can say it.
Yay!
Safe space.
You've earned it.
Us and our millions of viewers and listeners.
We are retiring. Both of us are stepping down at the end of this year, and so we are going to end this. It's not even a chapter.
Oh,
end this season, end this lifetime.
Yeah,
and retire at the end of the year. And so when we were talking about it, I was like, I don't even know what I sound like. I know that I have opinions, but they're so filtered, and they should be. You know, that I have a responsibility, but I didn't even know where to begin. And so it was less about visibility. Joining the Daily Drip for me was not about chasing visibility. It was about having a safe space where I could ask questions and have like a space to think. Being invisible was very attractive to me. Like it was, I just need some place that's going to challenge me to think on my own. And, you know, maybe if I land somewhere, I'll be like, oh yeah, there you are. There you are. And so that's really what brought me here.
I was going
to say that's the biggest irony, because you came for invisibility, and I don't think anybody thinks of that word when they think of the Daily Drip or comes here for that reason. But I think that's the biggest irony of your story here.
I feel like when we sit, because there's so many women now, and everybody has their own motivations. I think it's okay. You don't have to chase visibility. It's great that that's a perk if you want it, but take some time to understand who you are before you release it to the masses. Like, it's okay to have a space where you can just be.
I think that's the thing that catches every single member by surprise, because they come for learning how to make themselves more visible, how to build their brand, how to amplify their voice, how to expand their reach and build their influence. And when they actually sit down to do the work that goes into that, there's this self-discovery process that is unavoidable.
Yes.
It is a part of brand building. And some people, I don't think, are ready for it or expecting it. So when they come in and they realize, oh, this is the level of alignment I've got to do here, it's the reason why so many people can't describe the Daily Drip without naming feelings.
It's like a therapeutic process.
Which was literally how we talked about the Daily Drip.
Yeah.
It's just a feeling.
It's a feeling.
But it is ironic that you weren't looking for visibility. And I would argue that you are one of our most visible thought leaders because of the incredibly high impact content you have created, like in different ways. Like, you've said a lot of different things. And I think I connect with a lot of what you're going through right now. Because for me, when my kids entered high school, I was looking at my next. I had spent the better part just all in on them. And it was the same kind of process. Who am I as Romy? Like, who am I next when I'm not driving people to school or doing all these different things?
Outside of my role.
And I think it's about taking just the steps. Like, I see for you, the first step has been this channel, this sort of like, I'm going to come here and I'm going to start writing and thinking. For me, it was like, I'm going to get out there and try a different career and see what this looks like. And it sort of helps you get to that next place. Like, you kind of got to try you try it on and see how it feels.
It's a therapeutic process.
It's very cathartic. And I think you nailed it. You end up finding yourself or gravitating, learning what you like because of learning what you don't like. It's sort of like this process of elimination experience that happens that all of a sudden leaves you with a gift at the end. And you're like,
and a little prize.
And there's such a fulfillment that comes from that, where you say, there she is.
A calm, quiet.
Yeah. Almost like a relief. Like, she's not buried, dead, and gone. She's still there.
Yes.
She's, I managed to find her and sift through all the crap.
She has more eye bags.
And
she has more eye bags. She's tired, but she's there.
You've earned them. But I also think, like, you have a creative background too. So I feel like having a creative outlet is also like significant for you. And I think for all of us doing it the way we do it here, it's kind of awesome to have people like riffing with you and kind of saying like, oh, I hear what you're saying, and this I'm connecting with, this I'm not. And I don't know, I think your pieces show that. They demonstrate that.
Thank you.
So let me ask you this. Was there anything that you did in particular, like maybe with family, colleagues, to like prep them that you're going to be going public? Like, you know, because
My poor kid.
I gotta be honest. Like, if you have not, or if you're not familiar with Tiffani or any of her work, I mean, it is almost every single piece that she publishes goes viral. I've never seen anything like it. Your consistency with that is remarkable.
Thank you.
And this is not someone who talks and sticks with one lane, but you've tackled, I think, the gamut from leadership to parenting to
Mental health.
I mean, you've marriage, relationships. I mean, you've covered it all. And every time you show up, hundreds and hundreds of people resonate.
That's cool.
And so I just wonder, like, when you're thinking about these topics that you want to write about, A, how do they come to you? And B, how do you plan for that to go public in these ways, given the nature of your role and all of that?
That's so interesting because something happened last night. And so we were watching it and I went, oh, that's an article. Like, it's just like, you have an opinion about something.
I feel like I should trademark that.
Yeah. I love that.
That is just
I want a shirt.
That's just a part of our language now.
Yeah,
Here. That's an article.
Lauren Berkison.
Yes.
Trademark coming.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's not neuroscience. It's like you're sitting there, you're having a conversation with someone, you're having, and you're like, you know what? I want to say more about that. Like you can feel it, like you're excited about it, you got something to say about it. It's not like a big, huge process. I'm not like I'm not analyzing trends. I'm not like,
you're speaking on what calls to you, right?
Yes.
It sounds like you feel very like the things that you write about, you're so deeply connected to. You've either seen something or you've been holding on to something for a period of time and you're like, I need to share this. Like I've been carrying this shit.
Yes.
And it has to go out there.
But I also think that is the framework now. Gone are the 90-day
You should
batch
write about
cycles.
travel.
Right. Yeah,
write
or
about
like
finance.
Google searching trending topics.
No.
Like those days are so dead and gone. It really is about what is happening in real life and how can you bring that conversation digital onto a bigger stage with a bigger group of people.
Agreed.
With a strong point of view.
Yeah.
Strong point of view.
And I think that is the approach. But when you know you have a strong point of view and you have something you want to weigh in on or a conversation you want to start, like, do you think through? Do you ask yourself certain questions or audit anything to say, you know what, let me talk to my insert person I work with or colleague here?
I do not. And you do encourage as part of our process for us to look. I don't. I'm probably speaking to my daughter-in-law, to be honest, because last time I was with you, you asked me that question and I went, I don't think I'm speaking to anybody. I'm just speaking, or, maybe younger Tiffani, but if I had to actually choose somebody, I would say my daughter-in-law, because she's in that space. She's like in her late 20s, so it's a younger version of don't be me, this is Mayday.
But let me rephrase the question, because I get where you're saying. You're saying when I'm writing my pieces, who do you want to impact?
Yeah.
She's someone who comes to mind, someone who.
Well, you're not getting the first version, I'll tell you that. Like you're going to get the, like,
there you go.
Vomit on the page.
Right.
just in complete
raw.
Just raw. You're just vomiting on the page. And then that gets filtered down.
But then when you have that filtered process, do you think to yourself, let me run this by my board before I hit post? Let me talk to my husband before I hit post? Like, or do you have them read it? I've heard from different thought leaders that sometimes they don't want them to read it. They just want them to be aware and see how they feel. And then they want them to read it when everyone else does, because that could be nerve-wracking for them or make them overthink it.
That's different boxes. So I have talked about a lot of things, and I did not warn my child. He's 30. I did not. He found out with everybody else. I did not. Same thing with the podcast. I'll tell stories. At one point he was like, could we have a conversation before? I'm like, no. But with my husband, if it does have something if it's a topic that impacts both of us, then I will run it by him and say, are you
Got it.
comfortable with this content? So that's a given. My board, I will say, I am writing a piece on such and such. And in my personal opinion, if it doesn't have anything to do with the sector, politics, or religion, I'm not going to pass it through them for approval. It's just not. I know that other people don't have that luxury, but I do. So
You think part of that is because of where the stage that you're now at?
yes.
Because you really, no, but I'm saying like 5 years ago, let's say, or even 10 years ago, do you think you would have created this type of content? Or is this really how we're stepping into the next phase? Like, do you feel a little bit more comfortable sharing what you're sharing because you're going to be representing just Tiffani?
I am very
next year.
fortunate to have a supportive board. Not every nonprofit leader does. There are some terrible stories out there.
Yeah.
So I do know that there are people listening that do not have the luxury of doing this, and they should follow process and say, I'm writing about Turning Point. I'll use that. I'm writing
compliance.
about
Go through
I'm
their
writing
own
about
version.
Charlie Kirk's death. And so they would need to pass it through their board and get approval to do that, like compliance.
Yeah.
You know? I have a very supportive board, but I also do not, if you notice, I don't do any kind of pieces about politics or about commentary that involves our sector that would be controversial. So,
Right. You haven't shown up speaking on child welfare specifically. They're
not
more
unless it's something
leadership
positive.
Direct, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the perfect segue for the next batch of questions, because I have noticed a lot of trends in working with our nonprofit leaders that are very different than working with our for-profit leaders. It's this added layer of the board and board approval. And, you know, when you talk about finance or law, there's a compliance department, you email it, there's sometimes a form you have to fill out, and then something happens back there.
Yes.
And it comes back with whatever
The
edits
troll
it
from
needs.
compliance
Yeah, the
checks
troll
the
from
box.
compliance checks it, and it's good to go as long as you put that version out. And
Yes.
but nonprofit does not have a compliance department. It has boards.
It has boards.
With different opinions and different people. And
your board changes. The dynamic and personality
yes.
of your board changes every couple of years.
Correct.
So what was good a couple of years ago is not good now.
Correct.
Because of the shift in personalities and what their personal politics are and what they are choosing to be aligned with or what they think is acceptable from a leader. So it's not like you have the same board for 20 years. Right. You have different boards with different personalities.
And
excuse me.
No, I'm sorry. We're going to play footsie here. But yeah, that 100% is a challenge. The turnover is tough. But I also think, and I know this just from telling people about the Daily Drip and what we do, this is very progressive and sort of now coming into its own. Everybody kind of realizes, oh, we're all little walking, talking media companies, and we all need to have this digital presence and this brand. And so, 5 years ago when we were creating this and really advocating for this, people thought we were insane or either didn't see the need. Now everybody knows we're dead on. The need is there, but there's a lot of apprehension around cutting people loose. What does this look like from a implementation? Like, how do we go about doing this? And so I really got to hand it to you because from some of your peers that I have had the pleasure of working with, they didn't even get as far as you did with the ability to write articles or write social media posts, LinkedIn or anything in a way that made them feel authentic. It was just so rigorous and it was so shut down. And I can tell you, if I had a hard time having the conversations about explaining the benefits, I could only imagine how like a fundraising developer could sit down and have that conversation to try to advocate for why this is important without having the words or the to explain it to someone who might be of a different generation, might be from a world where business was done differently, just doesn't understand it. So you were fortunate to have a very supportive board that really kind of backed you, encouraged you, kind of championed the whole thing.
You're like
in a lot of ways. And then you tried to take it up a notch.
Yeah. That's why I kind of made
you
that.
did.
I didn't have any pushback. And the conversation about a nonprofit board is a much larger one. That's like a whole nother podcast.
Correct.
About, because when you first come into your position, that dynamic is different than when you're midway.
Correct.
You're forming a board, you're choosing your board members, you're educating your board, you're choosing board members that are in line with your philosophy. But some nonprofit leaders inherit their boards,
Right.
Or they inherit founder boards, which is a whole nother conversation.
So paint the context of where the board was and where Tiffani was when you started with the Daily Drip, and then where the board was and where Tiffani was when you had your big idea.
And 2 different boards.
2 different boards. Yes. So paint that picture of when you had your big idea to start This Is Now, Parenting Teens Today, a podcast that has quite literally shattered every single metric for a launch of a podcast in season 1.
Yay.
You named the metric, and she blew it out of the water. So I really want to dig into that and talk about where were you when you started, and then where were you when you decided to do this podcast?
Okay.
And what were some of the challenges you were up against?
All right, podcast. So the board, I had 2 different boards. I had 2 different board chairs because this was a process. And so as I'm learning about all these things I didn't expect to learn about when I joined the Daily Drip. Like, again, this was not the...
This is what we do. We blow up lives.
Yes, you blow up
In
lives.
a good way.
And I'm thinking, because fundraising is changing. Everything about fundraising is changing. Nobody wants to go to your stupid event. Let me say that. Nobody wants to go to your event. People are tired of events. And so I'm like, how do we bring value to the community? And you're triggering all of these thoughts over the course of like 6 months. Then I have conversations with friends, and they're like, I don't think you understand the resources that you have available to you. What's normal to you, I'll just rattle off, oh yeah, do this with your teenager, is not accessible to the normal parent. And so then go back to the Daily Drip, you'll do another part of the curriculum. And like, she's right. We could bring value to the community by having these conversations that no one's willing to have, and bringing in our experts and bringing in our modalities. Why don't we try this? Because we can monetize this bitch.
Can I just say, I'm like giddy up and down. Yeah. I need everyone to know that when I met Tiffani, I was invited to her office. I was invited to have an audience with Tiffani.
Shut up.
And I had a 30-minute appointment that lasted almost 3 hours.
Yeah,
do you
that
remember
was great.
that?
That was good.
And I'd like to think that was the day.
I didn't bail. Did I bail?
Yeah, you did. You had an appointment.
Oh, God. But it doesn't matter because that was the day. I think that this was the seed of being the beacon of support for parents today. And I love that you're sharing this.
How can we be a thought leader in our space and you create endearment with your community because they're coming to you to meet their need. They're struggling with their teenagers. Teenagers are hard. And so they're coming to you back and forth to have these non-threatening, difficult conversations with your podcast, and then that creates an endearment in the community. And when they give to charity, they're going to be more likely to give to you because you've already given to them. Right. How do we bring value to the community through this? So I pitched this idea, this concept to my board chair, who was very supportive, very, very supportive. And at the time we have older board members as well, different generation. And you have to remember, anybody 50 and up is like, podcast? What's a podcast? Does it make her happy? Okay, go ahead. She needs some joy in her life.
I guess maybe. But there's a lot of 50-year-olds that are podcasting now.
This is years.
I think
this is
more,
2 years ago.
It's also trying to explain how this supports their organization.
Well, yeah.
It's less about understanding podcasting.
Yes.
It's more like, how does this connect? How does this make sense? Why are we getting behind this?
How much does this cost?
How's it going to help
How
us?
much time is this going to take our CEO away?
ROI.
There was some but at first it was just kind of like, let her do it.
They couldn't see the bridge to this and capacity building.
There's
whatsoever.
There was no correlation. I don't believe in the early conversations between how this could benefit the agency. It was kind of like, why?
Right.
Okay, Tiffani wants to do it. Let's let her explore it. When we went to launch the podcast, there was much more controversy because as we went into Hype Week, a couple weeks out, I'm applying the things that I've learned and, we're hyping, but that's a media blitz, as you know, like you've got big.
Correct.
Big.
You're launching.
Spit it out, but it's big and it's personality driven. And so there was all of a sudden the older board members are quite threatened. What's going on? Why is this happening? What's the liability attached to this? A lot of fear-based conversations. We need to put a hold on it. So here we are. We've built this out, and you know how much work goes into this and how many moving parts. It's been over a year of work, and about 2 weeks out, I'm told cease and desist. And it was a very passionate, seriously cease and desist. And I'm like, the blood is draining from my body. I'm so, because it's like giving birth.
Yes.
Yep.
And
Yes.
I feel like it's all the details had been talked about, and now I'm being given literally a cease and desist order. And so it was a very passionate conversation at a board level that I felt should have taken place about a year earlier. But it really was re-educating board members about why we were doing it, what it was for, the potential impact to the agency, why it was important to bring value. It was just a whole conversations again. It was like having all of the first conversations again a year and a half later, with the fear that everything is just going to be thrown away because they're too afraid to take this step. And my current board chair, Karen Ross, was a huge support, as was her predecessor, Stephanie Parker. And they had the foresight to say, no, this is going to matter. This is really going to make a positive impact on the organization. Let's let her, what safeguards can we put in place so that you feel comfortable, board member A, B, and C,
Right.
but also allow our CEO to take this step and see if she can proof of concept.
Yeah.
And so then after many, many endless nights and tears and all, it's so many moving parts,
And it's
it's so much.
And not only that, like, again, the part of where my deep respect for you comes from is not only are there so many moving parts, not only did you really go out on a limb and take a very big risk, you also did it with very limited resources.
Yeah.
You didn't have the choice of saying, am I going to hire Jude the agency to
No.
help me produce my podcast? You didn't even have that on
My
the table.
girlfriend did it. She got so tired of listening to me, and she was like, just take this. And she seeded the first 6 months of the project.
Right. And even though she seeded the first 6 months, it was in a limited capacity with a studio and recording. I will never forget when I was getting all those first emails from you asking, for help, like, how do I do my episode summaries? Or can you give me guidance on like guest booking? And should I have an email template? And do I prep them? And it wasn't until that moment that I realized, holy shit, she's literally doing this herself in between the nooks and crannies that don't exist of her day. I will never forget that moment. And it was in that moment that I was like, she is a fucking badass. Like you will always be somebody that I incredibly admire, not because of your title, but because of that took a lot of balls to do what you did. And then to be willing to do it on your own back.
Thank you.
And you did it well. Like, you did it so
Exceptionally
well. That launch was incredibly successful. That season 1 was incredibly successful. And there are people who hire all the bells and whistles and have full production teams and do all of these things and do not achieve the results that you did. And I just, when I think of you and I think of thought leader, when people want to become a thought leader, we talked about it. A lot of people come for visibility first. You're one of the first people who came for everything but that. And maybe you came for yourself, just to find yourself. But then once you did, you still didn't do it for visibility. You did it for legacy. Because now Children's Harbor has an asset that boards from now, CEOs from now are going to get to reap the rewards of what you built on your back. I'm sorry. That has to be said.
I know. I can't wait
on
to see.
recording.
Well, and you created something so innovative in your space that is such a demonstration of your passion for what you do and how you've served these kids, that for somebody that's trying to figure out what organization to get involved in, like, it's not even spoken of, but to me, your podcast, how you host it, the people that come on it, is the most compelling demonstration of the work that you do. And as somebody like on the outside trying to figure out, like, where do I want to get involved? that speaks so much more clearly about the mission and about the work than any gala could. Like, honestly, sitting in a room in that capacity versus what the podcast does. Like, I think that's the other piece of this, is what that kind of content does to support what you do and be such a demonstration
Thank you.
of how you've served the community.
That means a lot to
And
me.
now it's exponential. Like, now it's not just one kid at a time. You're helping parents everywhere navigate arguably one of the harder seasons of parenting.
It is the hardest.
It's not
It's
easy.
the hardest. Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Amazing.
I think thought leader. I really do. I think somebody who is really building a legacy and looking to impact at scale.
Thank you.
Yeah.
More than just one kid at a time. And I think to now just tie in kind of what Romy said, which was really kind of leading by example for the rest of your peers on what does relationship building, community leadership, networking, fundraising, what could it look like through a content vehicle is really kind of...
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. So talk about how it's changed the game. Like, what has it enabled you to do with your network, do for your board, do for sponsorship dollars? Like, what has now the podcast created for you?
The podcast. I mean, clearly it's a vehicle when I see nonprofits do podcasts, like there are a few, they tend to focus on, like, they're going to bring their donor on the podcast. Right. I'm going to talk to you about why you opened your plumbing business. Talk to me about your plumbing business. Or, tell us about yourself. Like, no one's tuning into that. No, I think possibly my mother will watch this, by the way. You have millions of viewers, but I mean, like, nobody
millions and millions.
So many millions.
But like, nobody those donor showcases, unless you're going to focus on their philanthropic vision, like give them a chance to kind of talk about why they choose to give back to the community and how they give back to the community. Great, very meaningful. But what we did a little bit differently is that we ask Romy to come on and talk about something specific in her parenting journey. Tell me how you helped raise a little girl who doesn't hate herself when she looks at the mirror. That conversation, allowing Romy to position herself as a thought leader in this space, to share her personal. And oh, by the way, Romy is the co-founder of the Daily Drip.
Right.
It's just a different way of highlighting your board members, highlighting those people who believe in your mission or helping you move the needle forward, and bringing value to the community at the same time. As far as thought leadership for me, I would say an unexpected benefit for me, or I guess I was secretly hoping, is that it created a separation that I really, really needed. That I'm not just, when I'm out in the community, I'm not just Tiffani, the foster care executive, and that the only thing you can talk to Tiffani about is kids in foster care. I think for me personally, individually, it created a separation in the community that I really needed. I really needed it. Everywhere I go, I'm Tiffani, the foster care executive. Tiffani, the obsession that people have about your title, I don't even like to say it. The president and CEO title. You either have young leaders who get the title and are like, oh, I'm CEO, that's CEO life, being a CEO. And if you have to drop the fact that you are a CEO every 5 minutes, there's another underlying issue here. And then you've got, more established leaders who don't even mention their title. They don't even, like, it's not a thing. But the obsession that everyday people have with your title is ridiculous. People are just completely drunk. They change the way they interact with you. They change the way that everything, their body language changes as soon as they know your title. And so that's disconcerting to me. Like, I'm just me. I'm just Jenny from the block. Sorry, I had to do it.
Well, it gets blurry as to what their intentions are in the interaction. Is that just,
who cares what your title is? But a lot of people do. Yeah. And so this really created a separation for me. And I became less about what I do and more about who I am. That was a very meaningful value add for me.
So let me ask you this. Now that this is going into its second season. You've got some pretty big, heavy-duty guests. We've got a Miami Dolphins player on the show. We've got a lot of really big names. Mm-hmm. How does your board and the Children's Harbor community feel about the podcast now?
Very supportive.
They love it.
Very supportive. They're helping me source guests.
Oh, I love that.
They are.
Do they like being on it?
Yes. We've had quite a few board members who have really like, I don't even need to be there. Like, why didn't you lead the
I
episode?
love that.
Yeah,
I love
That's
that.
amazing.
Have you been able to get sponsorship and
That's our
and
next
support?
phase.
That's the next phase.
That's our
Good.
next phase. So we took it in phases: establish a presence, proof of concept, and then move into how do you monetize it.
I love that.
I think the other thing that you just said that I think is kind of important to recognize is that you said, I don't even know why I have to be there. And the reality is that
Yes.
This Is Now podcast is a tool or a platform for Children's
Bigger than
Harbor.
Tiffany.
So the fact that you created something, to your point, that is bigger
It's
than
a
Tiffany.
legacy. Yes.
So the quality of the actual content of the podcast is standing on its own.
yes, it
Which is speaks to what you facilitated and what you created.
Thank you. I'm very proud. I can't wait to see what the next phases result, what the outcomes are.
Well,
It has tremendous potential.
I can't wait to see the next phase of Tiffany. So here's our closing question for
right.
you. It's a question that we ask everyone that comes on the show.
Okay.
Which is, when you think about the future of your personal brand now, what are you in pursuit of?
Well, I can tell you I'm not in pursuit of more. That's the first thing I thought.
Fair.
Definitely not more. Not more. I do think that separates me. There's so much, because I watch everyone else, obviously, and there's so much pressure. I mean, they're tracking and they're measuring and, they're, all of their analytics, and I don't have that pressure on me at all, because I'm not building. I'm not in a building season. And again, visibility is not the primary motivation. As I view success as a thought leader, like does your piece go viral? It's, for me, the success of that is that resonated with someone. When your piece goes viral, whatever that means in your world, somebody read something that I wrote and they saw it themselves.
Yes.
Somebody read something that I wrote and they found a little bit of courage to take a step that they didn't think they could take, or maybe they feel a little less alone because I used my voice. And that is success to me as a thought leader. I'm not trying to build a brand identity or take over the world or build a business, or that's a lot of pressure on them. Like, their pieces need to be successful. I just want to connect with someone and help them get to their next is really my motivation. And
I love that. I think that's why you're so high up there for me. You really are, for all those reasons. I love watching you do this. I love watching you grow into this. It's incredible. And you should watch her grow into it too. So I'm going to encourage everybody to head to thedailydrip.com, where you can learn more about Tiffani Dhooge. You can read, watch, and listen to all her work. You should follow her on LinkedIn and continue to stay close to her, connected with her as she is entering in her next. And I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you guys all for listening and tuning in, and we will see you all back here on another episode of Her Pursuit.